experience with Kubernetes. It was the biggest event so far, and you can really feel the energy of like 2 more K people around this area.
Yeah, like everyone in Paris was a KubeCon attendee, I think, at some point. So for everyone just joining now, we have Eran Bibi, co-founding CPO at Firefly with us today. We all just got back from KubeCon, so we just took a few minutes to share our experiences. And now we're gonna dive right into the infrastructure as code report. So Eran, do you wanna tell us a little about this report? Like, what was the motivation behind putting it out?
Yes, of course. So maybe even before that, just a bit about myself and Firefly, just for people that are not familiar with the company. Firefly is a startup company. We just celebrate birthday, 3 years since the day we founded the company. So it was very exciting for us. We are helping cloud teams to get better control over the cloud resources by giving them a very unique perspective on the cloud. We are able to tell what is your IAC coverage. I will talk about that a bit, like the insights that we get from the report related to that specific blind spot. And we are basically assisting teams to increase and accelerate IAC adoptions. So every team that is like in the way, in the journey of adopting IAC to manage the cloud through code, which is of course highly recommended, using Firefly to accelerate that kind of motion.
Yeah. So, and what was your past history? Like, if you're already introducing yourself, so what brought you to this world of IAC?
Yeah. So my background was originate from infrastructure, system engineering, integration kind of role. And when cloud became something, I was like going to that direction. So DevOps is the obvious kind of was the new kind of profession of people with my background that would like to experiment and be professionals in cloud. So I did a few years of DevOps engineering, and then I moved my career to the more leadership and management kind of positions, leading teams of DevOps, SREs, platform engineering. And 3 years ago, I started my own journey together with my co-founders, Seti and Ido.
Cool. So, and what did you feel like at KubeCon? It felt like there was a huge focus on AI. So, what did you feel as like infrastructure as code advocate? What was the sentiment like in regards to Terraform infrastructure?
So what I sense, I think everybody sense that is this is the time of platform. This is the time of AI, like two different kind of technologies and methodologies that are very popular. IAC specifically is one of the pillars of having platform team. This is basically the way to provision infrastructure at organizations the platform way. We are, trying to advocate to stop ClickOps. This is one of the taglines of Firefly. Basically, avoiding creating stuff manually through the web console and stuff that are not declared as code. So I think IAC is getting more traction and more. I don't want to say mainstream, but it's a common sense right now that this is the way to do that. If you are a platform team, you are also having a strategy of what kind of IAC I'm going to use. There is few popular frameworks. Terraform is one of them. Maybe Terraform is the most popular. And also there was some changes in the license of Terraform, and this is basically was the birth of a new IAC platform called OpenTofu, which is an open source backed by the Linux Foundation. And so there is a new tool. And if we are talking about AI, so one of the stuff that AI can do is generating code. So if you are describing stuff at code, whether it's your application code or your IAC or infrastructure code, AI can assist with that. And we see a lot of toolings and a lot of users that leveraging that kind of Gen AI capabilities to the benefit of IAC coverage.
Yeah, and I have to say, like, I remember 2 or 3 KubeCons ago, like many teams used to do some IAC, but more ClickOps, and there was in between phases. And now it seems like everyone doing IAC, everyone wants to have Git repository with everything. So I think that the things are getting more, I don't want to say involved, but being popular with IAC, and people understand that this is the right way to run things, and this is the right way to scale when you're going to have large infrastructure scale.
Yeah, and I think also the demand for templating standardization is also on the rise. So people want like an easy way to consume things and make it repeatable across the organization as well.
Yeah, definitely. So, spin up new environment. If you need to duplicate environment to a new region, if your company is scaling out, and if you don't have any IAC or you're doing stuff manually, it's very hard to maintain so many environments that are identical. And this is one of the catalysts for using IAC. And of course, everything that's related to like CI/CD gating and shift left. So if you have IAC, you can scan your templates before and see if there is policy violations, see if there is some cost increase in that provisioning. So everything that can be prevented from getting to production is part of that trend of that motion of using IAC.
So where do you see Firefly fit into the IDP story? Like, I'm a platform engineer. I'm constructing my own IDP. Where does Firefly fit into that? Like with all the other tools?
So most of our customers are having some sort of IDP, whether it's Backstage or other product in that specific space, and they're using Firefly for discovery of the infrastructure of their services. So it's either using Firefly Backstage plugin or an API call for Firefly to get the context of the infrastructure of the services. So it's basically giving you another layer of visibility of what the service look like. It's not just about the application layer, it's also about what kind of components and resources being utilized, and they are doing that through Firefly.
So you're not like you don't see yourself as like a standalone platform.
Firefly is not an IDP system, is integrated with IDP system. It's we are a cloud asset management, like the product itself is giving you an inventory of all of the resources that you have on the cloud with the context of the IAC layer. One of the stuff that we are seeing and was a driver for creating Firefly is the fragmentation of tooling. So it's not like ClickOps or IAC. It's a combination of ClickOps and multiple IAC within the same organization. So you have the stuff that are provisioned using CloudFormation, but you have also Terraform and you have other types. Of course, we are seeing more usage of Crossplane that become some sort of a trend that is going up. And when you have combination of all of those ways to provision, it's very hard to sense what the cloud look like without a tool like Firefly.
I have to say that something that we haven't mentioned previously about KubeCon, but the fact that Crossplane is actually rising, and also 2 years ago, people thought that 10 Kubernetes clusters it's a lot, and now that it's rising. Like they have 100, 150, 200 clusters, and you need to manage all of that. And it's not only the cluster; they need to manage volume, instances, machines, virtual network, load balancer. So it's not only the cluster they need to manage full-blown infrastructure around it. And that was also something that's really interesting to see, the scale and the hyper-scaling from 2 years ago at KubeCon and that KubeCon.
Yeah, I think, AWS and other cloud provider releasing more and more platform as a service services. And when you have a lot of those moving parts, it's very hard to track everything, across regions. And there is also a side effect of that mess, which is cloud waste, that is very easy to accumulate. And with large number, it's become also something that is like wasting your money eventually. So this is another stuff that we are trying to do in Firefly, is basically highlighting cloud waste and making sure that everything that you have in the cloud is really bind to a specific application. It's not just a leftover. Typical use case that is related to Kubernetes is resources that was created by Kubernetes controller, and the Kubernetes itself was removed. So you have like orphan load balancers or orphan EBS. We see that all the time.
And they don't even know they have those.
They don't know it's very high.
Until you help them.
So again, if you are a small team, like, I don't know, 1 DevOps, 2 DevOps people, it's very easy to track everything. You go to AWS native tooling, you see everything. But think about large teams running multiple, I don't know, hundreds of cluster of Kubernetes. They are leaving a lot of footprint in the cloud, and if this stuff is very dynamic, like you're doing it for testing, you are removing cluster and adding cluster, and you see that waste accumulate to a large number, and it's very hard to track everything that is happening in the cloud, so many services.
Yeah, I just doing one cluster. Like Guy and I did a lot of booth duty this time, so we're a bit biased for like our experience, but like through the eyes of the attendees that came to see a Commodore demo. But what we heard about like cloud cluster upgrades, for example, like upgrading just one cluster is a pain in the ass. And like we at Commodore, it takes us 3 weeks, I think, now to upgrade the cluster. It's like a 3-week initiative.
Of your backend.
Yeah, just one, just one cluster.
Yeah.
So and now we're seeing organizations that have like hundreds or thousands of clusters, and it's insane to think that just last year it was so rare. Like if you had 100 clusters or 1,000 clusters, I think you got like a keynote session in KubeCon, and everyone came to see like, oh my god, who is this crazy engineering organization that has such a large infrastructure? Now it's becoming the norm.
Yes, it's so popular, and you think like Kubernetes and container workloads is basically trying to simplify shipping application to the cloud, but it's created so many challenges, new challenges that people don't know how to face and how to handle. And this is fascinating. I see the adoption across, I don't know, the past 5, 6 years of Kubernetes and cloud native workloads. It's like unbelievable. And what I sensed in specifically in KubeCon this year, that there was many people that are not in the cloud yet, but they are using Kubernetes on-prem. So Kubernetes is there.
Yeah.
It's not a cloud thing. It's just the way to run application right now. And so many people came to the booth and said, like, I'm not a cloud person. We have everything on-prem. We are government or other type of industries, but just not in the cloud, but using Kubernetes full power.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big trend. And I have to say I'm very excited about this webinar because we're actually in Firefly offices. And so usually we do that at home, so we can't feel and see everyone. So if we're not like taking a look on the camera, we basically take a look on each other, which is amazing. And by the way, one more notice that for people at home, if you're watching live, you can post some question on the chat and we will answer them. So feel free to ask any question you like on the chat, comment on that, on the video on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, whatever, and we will see that on our end.
And we also have another special guest that we forgot to introduce. This is Benji, a cloud native Chihuahua.
Hey, Benji.
So if you hear little bugs in the background, that's just Benji trying to chime in with some insights.
Did he came to KubeCon?
No, it doesn't fly. I saw there was forgot her name. There was a woman with a emotional support dog with her throughout the conference. Guy, do you want to add anything before we jump into the report?
No, I'm really looking forward to review the report together.
So just to give you a quick background, we did a state of the IAC. This is the second year that we are releasing this report. We are basically asking cloud practitioners DevOps engineers, platform engineers, few questions about their IAC usage and challenges, and the reason behind, the motivation behind doing that report is just to understand trends, understand where the market is going, what's becoming more popular, and what is become less relevant. And I think we also add few AI related questions this year, just to see that
Spice it up a bit.
spice it up with the Gen AI, and I think we got some interesting results. Comparing to last year, we see a lot of differences in the trends and new tools that are now adopted or considered to be adopted that was not there last year.
Have you noticed how many people are introducing themselves as platform engineers or head of platform or whatever with platform, right? Compared to previous years where it was DevOps, SRE, mostly.
We try to figure it out in a different way. We ask a question that maybe you can share the report. One of the question was, who is using ISC?
Mm-hmm.
And the answer was DevOps team, platform team. And so the reason behind this question, we would like to see how people are basically, what is the profession nowadays they consider to be the IAC user, the IAC champion. And I think platform engineer was, I think that
Number one.
Maybe we can scroll specifically to that.
Or is it? Or do you want to start? Let's start at the beginning, I think.
You want to go over on the report? Yeah. So see the number 90%, which is relatively high. People understanding this is the 90% is an indicator that IS is not just concept. It's not something that people are experimenting. This is the way.
Yeah.
If you have cloud environment, you have you need IAC to provision that, and this is very clear from the start of the report. There is no other way. There is no other way to manage cloud. It's not CLI, other stuff that we did back in the days, console, IAC. Pick IAC, but use IAC. You need everything to be revisioned in your Git. Everything need to be approved, like any piece of other code that you have in your application.
Can you tell me in a few words, what's the difference and what are the benefits for IC for people that may be born in this area and don't know how we used to work back in the day?
Yeah, I'm actually sketching my head now, thinking what was the alternative?
So the obvious alternative, the easiest way to provision cloud stuff is a ClickOps, and ClickOps is when you are just log into the AWS console, assuming you have permission to create stuff. And then you have a very nice wizards for everything. You want an EC2, very easy, few clicks. You have a wizard, and this wizard also, creating another resources like security groups. And it's so easy to consume and do mistakes, and creating stuff that actually can compromise your security, can be with excessive costs that are not needed, and it's very easy. I think one of the stuff that making the cloud companies so rich is because the ease of use. Think about it. Before the cloud area, if you want new compute, think about
to buy.
You need
another
to buy.
machine.
You need to buy, or you need to call the IT department and say I don't know, I'm a developer and I need to test my application on Red Hat 3. I don't know, something very old, Red Hat version 3. Can you give me credentials for the server? And I don't know, it will take time, and you need approvals and stuff, and see if there is someone to install Red Hat 3, because everything that you have right now is Red Hat, 2.7, let's say. It's very hard. Now you are going to a cloud console, like you are shopping in Amazon. But you're just shopping for compute, right? And it's so it's so fancy. You need to choose the size. You don't need one CPU. You can take 16 CPU, right? So you just like for Excel, I don't care. I can do that. It's in a drop down, so I guess I can do that, right? And then there is more questions like what kind of VPC, what kind of subnets, and you don't have a clue. So you next, and you have that. There is famous like Launch Wizard. There is like a security group that is called Launch Wizard because it was created by the EC2 Launch Wizard. So those stuff considered right now like it's wrong. If you have like Launch Wizard, I see in our customers, I see a lot of cloud configuration like utterance like from our customers, and all the time that I see security groups like Launch Wizard #1, Launch Wizard #2, like, those are created ClickOps 100% because they are a byproduct of creating EC2 in a ClickOps way. And so assuming that you are creating an environment, so you're creating not just an EC2, you're creating the networking, and you have some bucket S3, everything through the console. And the reason this is not the right way to do that, and you need IST, is because it's not manageable. You don't have revisioning. You cannot replicate it in an easy way. You don't have a track record of what you did. You don't have a blueprint. So it's like you need to build an house, and you have the materials, you have the concrete, you have the wood, the tools, and you are building, but you need a blueprint. You need something that will describe that how it's supposed to be.
So why wasn't it baked into the console, into the ClickOps? Like I click and I get a template, or I get something.
So we are getting there. We are getting there. So specifically, if we're talking about AWS, they have their own IAC framework called CloudFormation, which is one of the popular. And right now, and again, we're talking, I don't know, like 15 years into the cloud, like almost 2 decades to the cloud, right? They just released an option to generate templates out of existing resources. One of the capability, by the way, that Firefly doing from day one, but still, like how much time it took to realize that the user need those kind of capability. There are large market that already have and build stuff in a very dirty way, and now you realize that you need IAC, like converting stuff to IAC. So there is tooling to solve that right now.
And I think one of the interesting thing, like we can see right now in the report, is the trend in tooling and what happens when the main thing happens on the last year. So you mentioned CloudFormation, but you can see in the report, for example, that the Terraform license change and that make other tools to rise this year.
Yeah, this is a very unique topic that specifically for 2024. So a recap about what happened with HashiCorp. They decided to change the license type of Terraform that was the most popular IAC tool, and the change in the license basically make it
not free, not open source.
Like the code is still available, and you can still try to contribute like before, but from usage perspective, other company cannot utilize Terraform in a flows that are competing with Terraform Cloud, which is fancy word to say it's not clear open source anymore. And there was a lot of debate in the community whether like why they did that, and people that say like they're trying to monetize, it's their own right, they are investing in Terraform, they spend a lot of engineering time to create and develop Terraform. Other side will say like the community, basically the user are owning Terraform, and they don't like the fact that they changed the license. And of course, there is another aspect of companies, startup companies that are competing with Terraform Cloud, basically cannot use Terraform anymore from that version moving forward. And that basically gave birth of a fork of Terraform called OpenTofu. And that is now a Linux Foundation project, an open source project that some will say will be the successor of Terraform. And this is one of the tools that basically on the rise.
What do you think?
I think it's too early for me to really determine if it's the successor and like the original HashiCorp Terraform going to die. I don't think it will happen soon, but I think there is the power of the community and the power of the companies that are backing and investing in OpenTofu is very large. There is companies like Arnes, Spacelift, NF0, Groundwork, and tons of like hundreds of other companies that signed, including Firefly, by the way, that are supporting OpenTofu. And this potentially will make OpenTofu good product and maybe better product than HashiCorp Terraform. It will be a community led kind of roadmap. There is a lot of stuff that were desired by the community and HashiCorp did not implement in Terraform because of commercial discussions. And right now, you can see features that was long waited by the community, basically applied into OpenTofu. So I shared that I did a panel in KubeCon with a few other people talking about IAC. And one of the items that I shared, like this dilemma whether to go and stick with HashiCorp Terraform. Like if you are, an organization, a platform engineer that need to decide right now, if to stick with HashiCorp Terraform, you can do that, right? It's not impacting you. Or to go and replace everything to OpenTofu. The dilemma is relevant right now. It's very easy to migrate. And if you will wait more time with that decision, it will be harder to migrate. This is what I think. I think right now it's an easy decision, but in 2 years, they will be separated and breaking changes maybe. And I don't know what kind of directions and features HashiCorp will do. And I don't know what will be accepted into OpenTofu, but it will be different. I know that OpenTofu will, they have a motivation to keep everything aligned and get stuff from HashiCorp, not to make it too different, but you never know. You never know what will happen eventually.
Yeah, like it will be at some point. Like at some point, it's work for you to manage that. And one thing I want to mention is that, like, you said a lot about your prediction, but it's not your prediction; it's the community prediction. So if I'm moving to this page, like we can see the changes. We can see what is the current and what is the future prediction of people around IC frameworks. So it's really interesting, first of all, around that you are not saying only what you're thinking. It's only like backed up with data.
Yeah, I think I'm like my thought is a bit biased by this report because I just I'm talking about the insights, and this is also what I sense from customers and prospects of Firefly that I have in recurrent discussion. With what we did this year is asking another question that was not included last year is, what is your plan regarding IAC? And in this specific question, you will see that people are considering migration. It's either considering migration from Terraform to Crossplane or from Terraform to OpenTofu. So this is one of the highlights of this report. I guess eventually, when you are migrating, there is a cost associated with that, like the effort, the project that you need to implement in order to migrate. So if it will be complicated, people will just not get the decision and stick with Terraform. They say like, I don't have a capacity, I cannot plan a migration project. But maybe, on a new projects, like if you have new services or new product, you will try Crossplane or you will try OpenTofu and see like what is the difference and what are the benefits that you are getting from OpenTofu. If you were one of those guys that were waiting for a specific feature and now it's been introduced to OpenTofu, maybe it's a motivation for you to try a different tool. So it's very easy eventually, not to decide and stick with what you have.
Yeah, that's
because
always the easiest.
Easiest, but there is a dilemma. It's actually.
But you think it will be a net positive? Because to be fair to HashiCorp, it's happening across the industry. We saw it with Lens, Docker, like open source projects getting monetizable. Becoming
Recently in Redis as well.
Yeah, Redis.
Last week.
Last week. Yeah, hot off the presses. Only the freshest news that the platform is.
Company, they have goals. They need to earn. Open source is from strategic perspective is complicated to monetize. You cannot even. It's very hard to really tell what is the benefits of a company from an open source. Accepted thought leadership and the community and other stuff. So I think we are going to see more companies that have a successful open source tool, basically closing them down just to get more money.
Yeah, I can see why it makes sense for the companies, but for us, like the users, the community, will it be a net positive that projects like OpenTofu exist, or it would have been better if Terraform would have just stayed free and open source forever?
Specifically in Terraform, again, my personal opinion is that HashiCorp would have been decided to keep it as open source and not doing what they did. This is as a user, right? I'm working with Terraform for a lot of years, and I think this is one of the tools in my toolbox that I been expert, and it's helped with my career and for many years doing Terraform. So understand that Terraform is not open source anymore it was emotional for me, I would say. But again, it's business, and if something better is coming due to that decision, then it's good for the community eventually.
I have to say that I'm reviewing, I'm trying to find out more interesting data about the report, and I find something really interesting that I want to ask you about it. So let me just show you that. So we knew we got the majority of mostly fully qualified into the cloud. So we can see how many people actually getting into IAC or fully using IAC and everything as code. And it's quite interesting because when you ask people if they are fully IAC, they say they are yes, but turns out most of them are not really into IAC, fully deployed. So not 1% of things. So how do you see that? How do you see that based on your customers?
It's a bit gray now because there's no definition of your Terraform infrastructure is called maturity, or is there? Because
no, I will tell you. So this is one of the really interesting stuff and very related to what Firefly is offering. The IAC coverage. We are considering the IAC coverage as a blind spot. And IAC coverage is basically telling you what percentage of your cloud is being done right now with IAC compared to the rest of the cloud. And when you don't have a specific tooling for that, it's very hard to tell because you know what you are managing with Terraform, but it's very hard to understand what else is there. So most of the people that are leveraging IAC think they have a very good coverage, and I see it all the time with prospects that I'm telling them. They say I'm 90%, I'm 90, 85%, 100%. They are integrating Firefly and then 40%, 50% at the best. They didn't consider a lot of resource type that they didn't even know they have, IAM roles and policy and a lot of subnets and networking components and stuff that was there in the cloud by others. And so it's very common to to think that you have a very good coverage and you lock down your cloud and everything can be with ISD, but it's not really that way, and it's really a blind spot. It's really something that it's hard to tell.
Well, I can imagine someone coming on a sales call and saying, actually, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
I'm between 5 to 6%.
Yeah.
So, and I think that what is really important is the state of mind. Like, it's hard, like when you have created. So, for example, you created whatever your first few resources using the launch wizard, and then you are like keep going, but you already got this VPC that got a lot of resources in it. And now what would I do? Like, I can change the name, which is okay, but it's still the VPC from the launch wizard. I still got with it, and I don't have it like codified it. And you keep going. So, and when people ask you, do you everything in your environment is IC? Yeah, of course, this is what I do. But then you find out that it's not really everything. It's just some big percentage, but not all of them.
Yes, and again, it's all about like the size. Like if you're a small team, you just got your AWS account yesterday. It's very easy, right? But if you are a company, I don't know, 10 years old or 10 years in the journey to the cloud, most of the company are around that age. They move to the cloud in a very messy way.
Yeah.
Very messy way by other people that are most probably don't work anymore in that company. Like this is how happening in this specific in platform, in DevOps kind of world, people are just doing stuff and then move on to other company, changing positions and stuff like that.
Yeah, leaving someone else to pick up the mess.
Exactly. I did it a few times. And it's very hard to track. It's very hard to track if you don't have anything, like everything in your Git properly managed.
I have one more question to you. Like, there are like the challenges of ISC. Let me show you that. So, top challenge in managing cloud infrastructure in general. It's not related to ISC specifically, but maybe you can elaborate. What do you think are the top challenges for each one of the category? So people at home would understand if they see, like, for example, knowledge. What does it mean?
So, like any language, coding language, you need to be familiar. And it's not just about syntax, it's also about structure and how to module stuff. So knowledge is basically people, you got instruction to say, like, you need to do stuff in ISC. Very obvious, right? But I don't know, I never did that. My boss never did that. My colleague never did that. We all come from, I don't know, ClickOps certified and something like that. Everything was very easy. And now they need to do ISC. I see that in a lot of organizations that they don't know how.
Yeah.
They don't know how to start. And again, it's not about documentation. There is like a million videos in YouTube about how to start with Terraform, but it's really when you need to do something and you know that you already have workflows running and you get used to work, I don't know, with CLI or other stuff, other type. It's a gap, and it's a real challenge. It's slowing organization down. It's slowing project from being completed, and sometimes you just creating that technical debt. You say, like, I will do that ClickOps. I will do that. I know to do that with, I don't know, Ansible, for example. Someday we will describe it in CloudFormation, Terraform, I don't know, someday, and it's a that, and it's most probably you will switch a job before you will actually do that.
So it's interesting because ISC is never like the best decision to do at any point in time if you take care for tomorrow. But if you care for I don't know, for a year from now, that's the best decision to take yesterday.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
So it's always when you start a project, when you need something, so let's just create it. Let's just make it work.
When you are feeling the pain. So if you created some infrastructure environment, let's say, and it's running, everything is okay. You don't care if you have an ISC, you don't have ISC, it's running. But the day two become a mess. When you need to upgrade, when you need to replicate, when you need to to change configuration. It's very hard to do that in a structural way if you don't have ISC or if you have ISC drift. And this is another challenge that's worth to mention. So let's assume you're using ISC, which is a very good position to be, right? Then, because we always need to change configuration, scaling down, scaling up, adding parameters, other stuff. This is our application look like. It's easier to do that from the console or from CCLI and not from the ISC. So the thing is with ISC, once you are going ISC, you need to commit to that process. So every change that you are doing to the infrastructure,
Literally, you have to commit.
Literally, you have to commit and push to the main branch. And if you're not doing that, you are creating something that is called ISD configuration drift.
Mm.
And configuration drift is that there is a discrepancy between the code and the actual running configuration. And this is one of the challenges in IAC, and we see it all the time. People say, yes, I'm using IAC, everything is in IAC, and then Firefly is scanning the environment and see hundreds of resources with configuration drifts, just because it was easier for the practitioner to change stuff 6 months after using the Cloud Console. It's very easy to change, right? You need to scale a VM. You need to open a security group rule. Like adding your home IP or something like that, so you can SSH. I'm just trying to use like common stuff that I see all the time. So it's very easy to do and bypass the ISC. It's not good. It's creating issues because you are moving away from the code.
Yeah.
Right.
And another reason to have a unified platform, so there'll be like a single.
So when we are seeing when drift became a real issue is not, when the drift is happening. This is not causing any issue, right?
Yeah.
You change. You don't have any issue, but then over time, you take in your ISC and replicate the environment. Let's say in another region, because you need to spin up a new region, and stuff are not working exactly the same because you did a lot of manual change and not describe them in the code. So somebody think the code this is the blueprint, but you compare the stuff and actually update your IAC to make sure the IAC is aligned. And it's very easy if you're not committing all the way to IAC and say, every change that I'm doing, I will do that from IAC unless it's like a breaking glass scenario. And but you need to make sure to align the code all the time.
Guys, you find something else?
Yeah, I just pointed that there is a section in the report about drift detection. How can we prove? What are the main challenges? So we're not cover everything today, but I think it's worth for everyone to check the report and then learn more about that. And I think it's also a great opportunity to see how much you're sharing from your knowledge, but also you back up with the data in here. So that's
and we'll put a link to the report in the description so everyone can easily find their way to the report. Let's talk a bit about some tips or best practices or stuff that you learned from this report, so our listeners can take something with them.
So I think the first tip, and I think the most obvious tip, is to go IAC. I don't have a specific, take on which one, as long as you are doing that.
With Firefly.
Using Firefly is the accelerator. Using Firefly, of course, is a shortcut for anyone that would like to adopt IAC, of course. But even without Firefly, like putting Firefly aside, embracing IAC, this is the way clearly to stuff in the cloud. And also, there is a lot of way within IAC, like how to structure your modules, how many repetitive code you have. There is that notion of do not repeat yourself, like making sure that everything is modularized in the way that you're consuming that. So if you have a networking component, you don't need to basically write it for every environment. You have that module that you are consuming. and of course, everything that is related to stuff that you can scan in your CI/CD is always welcome. There is great scanners for ISC misconfigurations, open source. Firefly recently partnered with Checkmarx that are maintaining a project called Kix. And this is one of the scanners, open source scanners for ISC, and there is a lot of policies built in. There is also a great project called InfraCost that is scanning your configuration for cost changes and basically giving you a prediction of what's going to be the cost on the environment that you are using.
And you can use those tools proactively, like to prevent drift from happening in the first place, so you don't have to keep scanning and looking for changes.
So stuff that you are doing in the CI/CD, it's not specifically related to drifts. They are more about before you are provisioning new infrastructure to the cloud. For drift detection, of course, I will recommend using Firefly, but Firefly is a commercial product. If you are trying to find drifts in an open source way, there is few ways to do that as well. I will not tell you, of course.
Firefly is the only way. As far as we're concerned.
It's not the only way, but it's the most preferred way.
By the people who work. But how do you prevent it from happening in the first place?
So to prevent drift, it's a good point. To prevent drift, the real way to prevent drift is to seal your cloud from any change that is not from the ISC pipeline.
Mhm.
However, and there's an asterisk here,
All right.
even customers that are doing that, we see drifts that are happening by third-party applications like CSPM tools and cloud cost optimization tools.
Mhm.
So basically, drift will happen if someone or some tool have permission to change configuration in the cloud. So if you basically block human being from doing that, you will get drift from other places like automation or anything that can write or change to the cloud basically is creating drift between your ISC to the cloud.
Yeah, maybe something that can be really unique is that the fact that maybe LLMs in the future will be able to, for example, you will not need to create that manually from the wizard. You can tell them just generate the IC code for me. I can copy paste it into my pipeline, and that's it.
This is what pipelines do.
Okay.
So that's why you have the Firefly.ai now,
Right.
which is also part of the reason why we stopped with the scheduling last
The
time.
reason the reason for the domain is because the domain was available. Let's start with that. But we flagged AI as the future of Firefly, and we already have a very significant part of our technology is backed by Gen AI. Of course, we can do amazing things using AI, and I think IAC and code generation with AI, it's a really good match. But also, what we did in Firefly is creating an AI power insights.
Mhm.
So we are digesting metrics and basically providing more insights about your cloud behavior using AI technology, which is again just the beginning and a very fascinating topic to discuss.
We'll have a live stream on that next time.
I will be more than happy to do it.
Yeah, that's super cool. I think people are more trusting of AI now to do those type of tasks, like the menial labor, like stuff that just saves time. There's no reason for
Shortcut.
you. Yeah,
That's short.
a shortcut. Yeah. Okay, what other tips you have before we wrap up? Something you want people to leave thinking about?
I'm trying as regards Crossplane. I'm trying to see like how the adoption look like. I think in Crossplane there is a lot of curiosity and experiment going, and also when I'm comparing Crossplane from today to last year, there is a lot of improvement on stuff that were really preventing people for usage. So I will say that moving on, it will be easier to use and less challenges and less difficulties. So definitely Crossplane is something to look at and follow and maybe consider to try and migrate.
Shout out to Chromoplane.
Of
It's
course.
an open source project that helps visualize Crossplane resources, and it's very useful right now. I think because Crossplane is still very much complicated to get started.
Very,
So-
and again, Terraform is I don't know, 10 years old, still complicated. So stuff are, I think it's good for the vendors that stuff are always complicated.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we have more solutions to offer.
Of course.
Yeah, but also for the end users. I mean, they don't want to have too many tools, but
Yes, but think about it. Like we are saying that stuff became complicated, but comparing to how we operate and created services before, Kubernetes and cloud and IAC, it was much harder and almost impossible to
Yeah.
innovate in that kind of phase.
well, that's why you had like one release a year, and everyone was holding hands and
Yeah,
Having
so
a little
it seems
ceremony.
relatively complicated. However, you have, much less people actually participating in that journey of delivering software comparing to 20 years ago when you had operation team, IT teams, infrastructure team, storage team, networking team.
But back then, I think a developer had more proficiency, like they were reading manuals, and they really knew the stuff because they had like one job, writing
Right.
code.
And now they need to do everything, right?
Yeah, and this is why I think like the new solutions that are all about abstracting those complexities and exposing the functionalities, make it easier to consume, make it standardized, repeatable. I think that's also helping the end users, not just the vendors, because now they're able to be like proficient again in the profession. They don't have to worry about 10 million other things that they're expected now to do.
Definitely. It's a very interesting time to be an engineer right now.
Yeah,
Definitely.
yeah, more than ever, more than ever.
All right. So before we wrap it up, is there anything you want to share about you, Firefly, upcoming events, exciting stuff that you're working on?
Yes, so we came back from KubeCon. In parallel, we also did SRECon. It was in the Valley in San Francisco, and we are going to be in AWS Summit London in a couple of weeks, and also Google Next in Vegas. If anyone interested to come over, Firefly will be there. So this is like the most like the upcoming events that Firefly is going to be. And of course, if anyone has the opportunity to try Firefly, we have a free trial, so you can experiment by yourself. Beside that, it was a pleasure to be here.
It was a pleasure to be here too. Like we have the guest this time.
To be here in your show.
In our show, in our presence. It's really great, and for anyone who's watching or listening, this is not for sure. Like we're really great friends, and Bibi is a lot of fun, and we had a lot of good times in Paris
And croissant.
and croissant. And as maybe you can tell by how hard it is for us to squeeze into this one screen, but yeah. So if you're in Google Next, AWS Summit London, look for Eran, Bibi, and the Firefly team. They're a lot of fun. So thanks everyone for joining us. This live stream will be available on YouTube and on the Platforma's website. And we have a bunch of more exciting live streams coming up next week with Matar Peles from Quad, Carlos Santana from AWS. We'll be talking about Canoe and a lot of other great stuff. So stay tuned and bye-bye.